Hi, I'm Pete Van Dorp, Assistant Chief with the Algonquin Lake in the Hills Fire Protection District. I also serve on the advisory board of the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute. As the first in-company officer or officers are identifying and making a decision on how to control flow paths to and from the scene of the fire, they need to be developing a plan on how to safely and efficiently, meaning quickly, cool the fire. If, during the size-up, the officer is elected to initiate a defensive operation, this may mean positioning lines outside the collapse zone to cool adjacent structures and/or provide points of vantage to address the original fire building. However, if the officer is elected to initiate an offensive attack, the officer will choose an attack posture that achieves knockdown as quickly as possible in order to facilitate a transition to advancing to the scene of the fire for complete extinguishment. Cooling from a safe location helps accomplish three critical fireground objectives. First and foremost, it improves conditions for anyone still inside the building by reducing the thermal and toxic threat as quickly as possible. Heat and toxic gases are moving from the fire to the victim faster than any human can move. Research has clearly demonstrated that conditions throughout the building will improve within seconds of effective water on the fire. The sooner this happens, the better. Secondly, quick water reduces the thermal threat to the building, helping prevent a room and contents fire from transitioning to a structure fire. Modern buildings are less fire resistant than their predecessors. Stopping the fire from attacking the structural components of a building allows for a more aggressive and permanent positioning of resources into the structure for search, rescue, and complete extinguishment. Lastly, though certainly not least importantly, early cooling reduces the thermal and toxic threat to firefighters as they advance into the structure. This allows them to move faster toward their objectives and accomplish them with greater speed, efficiency, and effectiveness. All fireground operations become faster, safer, and much more effective when the fire has been knocked back and controlled. Cooling from a safe location does not, in any way, shape, or form, mean that the fire must always be hit from the outside first. It simply means that you now have permission to use the reach of your stream from whatever position is most advantageous for a fast knockdown of the fire. It also means that you have an obligation to do so. If you are standing with a charged line in your hand waiting for the front door to be forced and you choose not to knock down the fire showing from the second floor window, you are deliberately exposing the victims, the building, and your fellow firefighters to an unnecessary threat. Do the right thing.
When I first started to learn about exterior water from the research, I was reluctant. I was very apprehensive about trying to do that, and the more I learned about it, if I could reduce the temperatures for the occupants, if I could make things better for my firefighters trying to get in and make that rescue, it wasn't that, why would I do that? I couldn't argue why I wouldn't. It's the right thing to do.
Cooling can happen through an almost infinite combination of positioning and stream selection combined with line advancement and nozzle techniques. But it will most often be initiated in one of the following ways. 1. Cooling the gas layer overhead by flowing water into it prior to advancement. Water should be flowed until droplets are seen and felt to be returning from the smoke layer. 2. Cooling the entire area ahead of your advance with a sweeping or arcing motion of the nozzle. 3. Cooling the fire compartment using the reach and penetration of your stream. This can be from either an interior or exterior position and should be done from the position that gets effective water to the fire as fast as possible. 4. Cooling a void space before or as you expose it. Let's look at cooling the gas layer. We should be long past the point where we think you don't put water on smoke. Smoke is fuel, hot, toxic, potentially explosive fuel. We should never advance into or under a fuel-rich atmosphere of hot, toxic gas. A hot gas layer is pyrolyzing more fuel as it moves through the structure, making conditions worse. Cool it. There may not be a clearly stratified smoke layer as you advance into a structure. The smoke layer may be too low to get under, or heat conditions may be preventing your advance. In cases like these, you may elect to cool the entire area ahead of you, gases and surfaces alike, with a sweeping, arcing, or whipping motion of the nozzle. As with gas cooling, the idea is to recognize that your entry into the environment and any ventilation operations will bring air into a hot, rich fuel atmosphere that needs to be cooled to prevent violent fire growth. Using the reach of your stream to cool the compartment before you advance on it may well be the most effective tactic. It gets the most water to the source of the problem as soon as possible. When done on the interior of the building, it may often be combined with gas cooling and sweep and advanced techniques. When done from the exterior of the building, it comes with two important caveats. First, never, and we mean never, use a fog pattern of any type when operating a line through an exterior opening into a structure as part of an offensive operation. Similarly, never whip a stream as you play it into the window. Both a fog stream and a whipped straight stream will entrain a great deal of air that can actually reverse the natural convection out of the window or door. At the same time, the water pattern is physically blocking the ventilation opening. This combination of blocking the opening while entraining air into the structure is likely where the idea of pushing fire originated. You are effectively changing the flow path with your stream. This can and must be avoided. In addition, get close to the opening in order to get the stream to enter the window at an acute an angle as possible, bouncing the stream off the ceiling or walls, thereby replicating the effects of a sprinkler head.
Cooling the fire from the exterior is much more than just throwing water in through a compartment opening. If you flow the water through the opening at a horizontal pattern, strike it off the back wall, for example, you'll cool the back surface of the wall and have limited impact on the overall temperature in the compartment. Angling the stream up a little higher, having it disperse off the underside of the ceiling, you'll cover more of the contents within the compartment and maximize the cooling.
Cooling from a safe location is nothing new. It is a tactic that was used by our forebears because they had no choice due to lack of SCBA and bunker gear, and that should be used by us because it positively impacts interior conditions for victims and rescuers alike. The historic objectives of cover the exposures and confine the fire prior to extinguishment were early manifestations of the same idea of preventing fire spread prior to executing fire extinguishment. Revisiting the importance of these objectives is especially relevant in today's fire environment where exterior foam insulation and vinyl siding have accelerated fire spread from floor to floor via auto exposure out of the windows. We believe that adopting the concept of cool from a safe location accomplishes these objectives while at the same time prompting the officer to remember that he has adopted an offensive strategy that requires a tactical transition toward complete extinguishment at the seat of the fire. Cooling from a safe location can also be thought of as simply resetting a post-flashover fire to pre-flashover-like conditions, allowing for a more aggressive posture within the structure. It is also a method for cooling a ventilation-limited fire area prior to extensive ventilation in order to prevent flashover and other violent fire development from occurring. A truly coordinated fire attack requires that ventilation and suppression move forward at the same pace, and that requires early cooling. Another part of the cool from a safe location methodology is to expose and cool concealed spaces and voids as early in the firefight as possible. Modern residences have more interconnected void spaces than ever before. These spaces can easily become filled with explosive mixtures of heat and smoke. Fire officers need to anticipate and plan for explosive void space fires at every incident. When voids are being opened, they need to be cooled immediately. Do not wait for the fire or smoke to push out of the opening, and do not wait to get it all opened up first. Remember, you can't see or feel most of the potential problem yet, so get it wet. Taking a beating inside a building is not what makes your firefight an aggressive one. An aggressive firefight is one that allows you to move quickly to your objectives and effectively accomplish your mission. By now it should be evident that S.L.I.C.E is an acronym designed with an aggressive interior firefight in mind. The decision to adopt an offensive or defensive strategy is made early in the process, just as with any other approach to a firefighting incident action plan. Once the decision to go offensive has been made, the priorities of locating the fire, identifying and controlling the flow path, and cooling from a safe location are designed to help the officer best accomplish the ultimate goal of complete extinguishment. Extinguishment is not an automatic outcome or end result of accomplishing the prior objectives. Modern fires and modern buildings quickly transition from room and content fires to structure fires. The amount and toxicity of modern fuel loads is greater than ever before. The volatility and combustibility of modern fuels and the smoke they produce makes reignition more likely and more violent than in the past. Add these considerations to the traditional list of reasons why we need to get into and occupy the structure as fast as possible. As the first companies move in for complete extinguishment, they need to be cognizant of the need for additional ventilation, backup lines, lines to cover interior exposures and fire spread through the voids, and lines to support and protect search teams. The conditions of the utilities need to be taken into account. The condition of the structure needs to be continually assessed. In short, there is still a whole lot of work to do and a great deal of information that needs to be gathered and processed. The principles of modern fire tech and the S.L.I.C.E system are designed to assist the first arriving officers with organizing and meeting the critical objectives of the first few minutes of the incident, while making effective use of information and insights gained from recent research into fire dynamics and the characteristics of lightweight construction. As more companies and command arrive on the scene, the operation can and should be fleshed out using RECE-OVS or any other command organization system that meets the needs of the incident. From South Bend, Indiana, this is Pete Van Dorp. Please keep safe out there.